You're listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. With your hosts, Anthony R. Destiny, Joe Ferrani, and Jerry Kenna. Interviewing entrepreneurs, business operators, and investors. This episode of Between Two Bridges is sponsored by Paymark Payroll. Payday is the most important day to your most important people, and payday is made easy at www.payyourpeople.com.
Okay, we got the bridge episode for February.
All right.
Between Two Bridges here. Co-host Anthony R. Destiny. Jerry's making a deal right now.
And Jerry Kenna.
And Joseph Ferranti.
So we're here to recap our last three guests and kind of...
I'm not used to being second. That's what
You were waiting for it.
I was waiting for you to be Joe Ferrani before I... Yeah.
You can
Sunday
beat me.
Morning.
Yeah. So like Sunday morning. So for those of you that watch, it's not always like cocktails on a Friday night.
Right.
We're drinking coffee today.
Yeah. I
And
feel a lot
energy
better.
drinks.
Coffee.
I feel a lot better this Sunday.
Shout
than
out to
I did.
Aldi. They have this new stuff. It's a third of the price of Monster.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it as effective?
Tastes exactly the same.
It's probably
as the
Monster,
white
just in a
ones.
different...
Yeah, but I bought 36 of them. I buy Monster all the time, but
What did our guest called that? Habit hopping.
yeah.
So
yeah.
Anthony doesn't drink and he
Yeah.
runs now, but he's
So,
crushing energy
Yeah,
drinks.
so closing in on another month of sobriety.
Oh, wow.
But Christy, right? So we had a mental health expert. I think one of the things that, from a business standpoint on that episode, was she rents the building. I don't know if they have an opportunity to buy at some point, but I feel like they were missing out on that aspect. Maybe you know more about that, Jerry, but...
It's tough, though, sometimes, especially starting out.
Right.
My company's...
Yeah, I guess you lease, too.
14 years in, and we still rent.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a unique situation, and not sure what's going to happen in the near future there. But yeah, sometimes when you're first starting out, you need to rent space in order to be able to survive. Right. But then obviously buying a property and then renting to yourself is more advantageous, especially if you can find a way to buy a property that maybe has multiple spaces, whether there's residential upstairs and commercial downstairs, or multiple commercial spaces that you can sublet out, kind of cushion it. You know, ideally, it would be nice to be able to have tenants cover your costs so that your company doesn't have to front it all. Plus, the other thing that's nice too is when you can pay yourself, your company can pay yourself rent. So basically the way you would set this up is you would set up your company is one LLC or corporation or whatever, and then you buy the property in either your name or in a separate LLC, and your company pays your holding company rent. The reason to do that is if you're for instance, a subchapter S, your company is a subchapter S corporation, you have to be aware of the amount of distributions you're taking out of the company in relation to the amount that you're paying yourself on payroll. The IRS wants you to be on payroll for a reasonable amount of money so that you're paying a reasonable amount of Social Security and Medicare. So a lot of times people will pay themselves that reasonable amount and then take distributions out of the company for the profits for the additional amount. You have to be careful with that because you don't want what happens sometimes is you'll have somebody that well, I'm only paying myself $30,000 on the books, but I'm taking $200,000 out in distributions. The IRS doesn't like that. You're shorting Social Security and Medicare, which, I mean, at the end of the day is not really helping yourself, because whenever it comes time to collect Social Security and Medicare, the money's not going to be in your account. But if there is Social Security and Medicare whenever we're at retirement age.
Yeah,
but,
that's always my thought. It's
we may not even be there. But with you, if you own the property, you put yourself on payroll for, say $30,000, and then maybe you're taking $20,000 or $30,000 in distributions, but then you also can pay your holding company a reasonable amount of money for rent for the space, which rent revenue is not subject to self-employment tax. So no matter how much money is in that bucket, how much profit, you don't have to pay that Social Security and Medicare tax on that. So it's another way to get profits from your company into your pocket. You still have to pay taxes on it, state and local or federal and state tax, not local on rental income, but for PA people that are watching, but no Social Security and Medicare tax. So it's a way to take your profits without paying Social Security and Medicare. So it can be advantageous for tax purposes, not to mention, if you're paying $2,000 or $3,000 or $10,000 a month in rent, you're basically just paying off somebody else's mortgage or increasing somebody else's wealth. Whereas if you own the building, you're paying down your own mortgage, you're building your own wealth. And at the end of the day, 15, 20, 25, 30 years later, when that building's paid off, you have an asset that's fully paid off now. And,
Yeah, they call that tax avoidance.
Tax avoidance.
Right. I think we talked about that. There's a difference between tax evasion.
Yes, there's definitely a difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion.
So a lot of things that Christy has going on is she's talking to a dynamic group of people with the firefighters and the EMT and police and doing things that are beneficial to our community as a whole. And I mean, she obviously has done her homework. I mean, she's gone to different countries to learn different things, and she's really followed through on a lot of it. So that's a good asset to have in our Pittsburgh community. I'm curious to see what this garden in Tarentum looks like. I think we signed up for a yoga class, the three of us.
Yeah,
on site. Yeah, on site. We're going to bring wives.
The pictures look good.
It looks dope. Yeah, I mean, it looks real sweet. I mean, she ran into a situation where that's not even her space. The guy just generously offered it to her to use. And when you think Japanese gardens, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think about Tarentum. So
yeah, but I actually had a past guest reach out to me and talk to me about that. And apparently that Japanese garden in Tarentum is pretty legit. Yeah,
was that Cam?
No, it's Hugh.
Hugh, okay.
He reached out to me.
Yeah, because Cam's mom did Japanese gardens.
Yeah, so I didn't talk to Cam about it.
We're the official podcast of all Japanese gardens.
Right. Yeah.
Koi fish.
Yeah.
Koi fish.
Koi fish.
Yeah.
Hawks.
Yeah. It was another interesting thing about talking to Christy was that to talk about something that we don't really talk about here was mental health.
Yeah. Well, nobody really talks about it.
No, right. Nobody talks about it. And it's something that everybody, not just business owners, but everybody in this country deals with on a day-to-day basis in so many different aspects. But we deal with it as business owners, as parents. And it was interesting to hear what she had to say about it. We got a lot of, I don't know if you read the comments, but we had a lot of comments talking about how that it was nice to see somebody talking about mental health and the impact and some things that you can do to try to help.
Right. I mean, I'm a big component of the whole popularity of the topic of gun control. People are always like, oh, guns, no guns, for guns, hoorah guns. But I think a lot of the problems we have with all of that is the mental health aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look at statistics over time, I mean, guns have always been around, but there seems to be some serious changes in the mental health aspect of our society. And I think to ignore that is pretty dangerous. Actually.
Yeah. I mean, guidance counselors need to step their game up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a little different job nowadays than whenever they were.
It is.
They were being guidance counselors for us.
It is. It almost seems like, and I don't want to minimize the job of a guidance counselor when we were in school, but it almost seemed like, I mean, any guidance counselor that I ever interacted with when we were in school, and I don't think I was probably high up on their list of people that needed help, but I mean, it was kind of directing you on what you want to be when you grow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was almost, I always think it's funny because in my business, I see so many different people with so many different career choices, right? And I see it. It almost seems like we have these waves of professionals where, like when we were in school, it seemed like 40% of the people we went to school with tried to be teachers, and now everybody's trying to be nurses, and now there's a shortage of nurses. And it almost seems like there was a big meeting back when we were in school with guidance counselors. Like, listen, we need teachers. Get everybody to be a teacher. And then there were too many teachers, and now we don't have any nurses, and now we have a shortage of teachers because back then we had too many teachers, and now we have not enough teachers. And I don't know.
We just need to raise doers, people that'll do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do you know? This is off subject and it's a little bit of a tangent, but I saw. Do you remember on episode 1, Mara said that he thought that it was Henry Ford that kind of helped?
Correct.
It was not Henry Ford. It was Rockefeller.
Huh.
So just a little correction.
Yeah.
It was Rockefeller, but it is true that he's quoted as saying that he does not want to raise thinkers. He wants to raise workers.
Yeah.
And that's how they came up with the school curriculum, to teach people how to be workers, not thinkers. And kind of crazy.
As a parent, I look at my kids a lot and think, like, what can I do to set them up, like, mentally for success?
Yep.
Because, like, I wasn't around it. I worked with, my parents were 9-to-5ers, as a young kid. And I just don't know how you adapt people to be a thinker and say, hey, I'm going to buy a business, I'm going to buy a building. I think that's just bred in you. But, like, to people that, like, the workers and the doers, that's a concept that you need to be around.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is not necessarily teaching them to be thinkers, but teaching them to have the confidence to believe in what they're thinking.
Right.
And we talked about that. We're skipping Bill Deller, but we're going to Saxon. But we talked about that during Saxon's episode, Mr. Greg Saxon's episode, where we talked about how to give your kids the confidence to believe in what they're thinking.
Yeah, and there's more than financial support. There's just support as a whole.
Yeah. It's almost, I mean, I don't, of the three of us, none of us grew up wealthy. I mean, our parents didn't give us anything except for
an ass beating.
From time to time. And
values.
Well-deserved values and the confidence to do what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And if they would have shit on every idea that we ever had, we wouldn't be where we are.
We'd be a lot wealthier.
But I see so many people that struggle every day with, they have great ideas, but they can't execute them because they don't have the confidence to do it. It's not that they're not thinkers. It's that they don't have the confidence to believe in what they're thinking.
Yeah, I go back to the thinking part as a young kid. I think what I lacked in my beginnings as a business owner was, like, I thought the one thing that paid off more than anything was hard work. So I'm like, I'm just going to just keep working and working and working. And now coming up on 40, I'm like, wait a second here. I need to start making this work for me.
Work smart, not hard.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand it more now than ever.
Yeah.
I have all these ideas in my head, and I can't pursue any of them because I have to go sort clothes tomorrow morning.
Right.
And it is what it is. It's fine. It pays the bills. I have a good life. Maybe it pays the bills. I don't know yet, Jer. We're working on that part of it.
We got to figure that part out.
It's definitely, like, working for me. It's a tool, but I need to be able to, like, get a little more hands off in it. We've talked about it before, and I think a lot of business owners that come in here are getting pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I mean,
moving into a position of CEO instead of working in your business, you work on your business. It's something we talk about all the time.
Right. I've been working, like, a lot of late nights, just kind of working on, like, a rebrand, because I feel like I've become synonymous with the brand, right? Like, when people think, my customers think door cleaners, they think of me standing at that counter.
Yep.
So, like, I'm thinking about just, like, restructuring and a rebrand and, like, kind of going off the beaten path, and that'll help me mentally just pull back and be like, all right, this is the business I run now instead of the business I own.
Yeah, you have to, when you're looking at building a business, something that kind of changed the way I think is when I'm starting a new company or a new venture, I start it with the outlook of, can I sell this someday?
Right.
Because I don't want to be doing this when I'm 75 years old. I see people that do it, and I don't want to do it. I'm 40. I can't see working 80-hour weeks during tax season when I'm 70 years old. I don't want to do it. For my tax clients that are listening, I'm going to be doing it for a while. Don't worry. But I don't want to be that guy that's 70 years old and doing this. So you have to build a brand or build a business that's sellable. And it goes back to a lot of times buying the building that you're in so that helps have an asset to sell, right? But building a brand that's more than just you.
Yeah,
you want it to be something that somebody's like, oh, Paymark Payroll, not, oh, Jerry's payroll company. I want it to be that payroll company that everybody knows so that someday I can say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. It's time to sell it. So it makes X amount of dollars a month times, whatever multiple. That's what it's for sale for. And then, maybe some big payroll company comes up and eats it up and I can go retire on Key West with Joe Franny.
Well, I guess one of the things that I always look at is no smart businessman is going to give you what you want for your business if on the owner's discretionary spending, it's a lot. And also if the owner's working 80 hours a week in the business, because then they got to replace you.
They don't want to buy a job.
Yeah, nobody wants to buy it. Well, a lot of people buy a job. I bought a job. But I think to get into a market or a business to start out, you almost have to buy that first job.
Yeah, but the price of your company, if you're selling a job, is a fraction of what the price of your company is if you're selling a business.
Correct.
If you're selling a dry cleaning company that is that it's running independently of you, and you're not there every day folding clothes.
You see that in a lot of listings. Absentee owner.
Yeah,
and that's the
passive.
gold
or like
nugget.
Franchises. You can go buy
license it
10 to 20K, but if you sell payroll someday, that's a lot more than 20K.
Exactly. I mean, some of these companies, whenever they sell, if you're independent, if it's a brand and recurring revenue, that's the buzzword now that everybody that these big companies are trying to buy recurring revenue. Mm-hmm. If you're selling a company that's got recurring revenue that's independent of you, and payroll is a great example because like the people that I have working in it are great, but they're not the only ones in the world that can do it, right? So if I sell the company, these big companies are not going to bring my people. I understand that. And, my people would be taken care of in the,
once again,
listening,
this is going to be
in the future. Yeah. My people will be long gone before then, and they will be very well taken care of if this ever were to happen. But, they're going to just take the clients, right? Yeah. And they're just going to build it into their system. They're basically buying the revenue stream. But these companies will pay 3 to 5 times that revenue stream. So if you have a company that's bringing in $3 million a year in payroll processing fees, you could get $15 million for that company. Now all of a sudden you can buy yourself a nice place in Key West and sit on the beach all day.
No, not a nice place. You could buy a little place.
Yeah, you could buy a little place.
700 square foot bungalow. But you see these there's a lot of businesses in Pittsburgh I've never heard of, and I read the Business Times all the time, and it'll be like Life Tech Incorporated purchases Mom and Dad Incorporated for $83 million. And it's like, I never heard of either one of these companies.
Right.
So like, it's unique. Business is unique. And that's kind of why I lean towards it. It's a challenge.
It's kind of fun. That's the fun part of what I do. I've said it before, number crunching, sitting there reconciling bank statements. That's not fun for me. But business development, building a brand, building something that's sellable, growth, that's what's fun for me.
Yeah, and I mean, we had Greg on, and obviously, if you're listening to this and you're from the Oakmont-Verona area, you know Conco, and they did sell at a number that I don't know. We didn't discuss the number. It's not public.
We're not allowed to know it, but
it wasn't $100,000 and a work truck. It was a lot of lawyers, I'm sure, were involved, and a big acquisition, and good to see somebody like that, and that whole family as a whole.
It was probably way more than what Mr. Saxon, when he first bought into that company,
for $3,000.
Yeah.
Well, that was
that was his portion or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm sure whatever that whole number was, which we also weren't, it was not disclosed to us, and it's fine. Whatever that number was, I'm sure that he had no idea what it would be sold for at some point, someday.
Yeah.
But a lot of hard work and dedication, and
it was unique too, because a lot of people will say to me, like, I don't want my kids to take over my business. I'm kind of in that like realm of things. Like, I don't want my kids to run a dry cleaners, because I'm working it. So like essentially I'd fail them as a parent because they would just be working a job that I put them in. But like they all the kids worked in the business, but I think everybody had a goal to expand that business, and they weren't like Greg wasn't in shooting tubes, like they were all doing management roles.
Probably not.
Yeah, but
at one point he was.
He also got dirty, and he had to when he had to, and that's part of it. But I agree with you. Like, I'm not building a job for my son,
right,
or my daughter. I'm trying to build an empire of businesses that my kids can then continue to grow,
or sell off and
start something else. Or maybe they decide that my daughter wants to be a doctor and doesn't want anything to do with the shit that I deal with every day, and that's okay too.
That's when I feel like you succeed as a parent. It's like, I see some of my customers talk about their kids, and they're like, my daughter's killing it, and it's like, it's wild because I look at that person, I'm like, you're killing it. So imagine, and kids nowadays are different. They're like fleeing. They're able to just get up and go and visit places and do things. But it was cool to like kind of see somebody that he's not that old, right? Greg looks great for his age.
Yeah.
And he's kind of done with the grind of it. He's still doing his new adventure, and I think that's a personal decision.
It 100% is. It's to keep him busy, keep him active.
Which is pretty smart.
And he's got a plan. And his plan is not to fix axle repair, fix axles on the side of the road for very long. His plan, he's got a plan, and I don't think that it's a super public plan, and it's in his head and his people in his close knit circle. It certainly wasn't something he wanted to blast on a podcast, but he's got a plan,
right?
And his plan.
Don't be blasting it on here, bro.
I'm not. And honestly, Joe, I'm not even privy to what exactly the plan is. But my impression of that plan, and what I think that when Greg listens to this, and I think he will, what he would appreciate me saying and not saying, is that his plan is not revolving around money. His plan is revolving around creating an opportunity with what he knows, what he was able to do with Conco, by trying to use that knowledge and that experience to help his kids and his family do it again with what they're involved with, so that he can try to pass on that legacy without just writing them a check. He doesn't, he's trying to, because that's what ends up happening when you end up just writing your kids a check. That's when it goes away, right? Because they don't appreciate that check. Not that his kids are like that, and I'm not insinuating that they are. They're spectacular, but
it's just statistics show.
Statistics show when you write your kids a check, they go nuts and the money's gone. So, but the whole thing, you teach a man to fish, right?
Right.
So he's going to try to use what he learned and what he was able to accomplish to help put his kids and his family into a position to be able to do it again, to better the lives of their families and their kids and their next generations. And it's all about legacy. It's all about generational wealth. Instead of just saying, hey, I was able to be successful. Here's this fat bank account that I'm going to pass down with you, and good luck to you. He's showing them how to make their own.
Yeah.
And putting them in a position to make their own. And I think that's his plan with this, without anybody actually telling me that. But that's the impression I get. That's just the kind of man he is.
And talking with him, I think he took a lot of great pride in those employees at Conco and the lives they were able to obtain because they worked for him. So like when you start a new business and you have that experience, maybe he has 25 trucks on the road and independent contractors, and they're providing for their life. I mean, a guy that has a million business stories tells us a story about one truck in a farm in North Carolina.
Yeah.
He could have told us about all the big businesses he's worked with along the years, but he's a humble guy, and it was a good guest. It was shorter than most episodes, but I think I learned.
I thought there was a lot there. Just to tie it back to Christy too, like he seemed very at peace with his life and mentally was very sharp, had a lot of good advice.
Yep.
From a parenting standpoint, you see what his kids are up to and what he's impressioned on them. Certainly hasn't pushed them in any one way or the other with his daughter going out to Montana. So it's like, that whole mentality. I mean, I know your dad's outside right now. Like, what was it like growing up with him? I know he's an accountant as well. Were you
So my dad didn't start out as an accountant.
Yeah.
My dad's been in sales his whole life.
Bread salesman, right?
Yeah. Well, he started out when I was a kid. He was a car salesman. He was selling cars. My dad was in sales his whole life, but was always very entrepreneurial. But never was in a very, he had kids young and was never in a position to take big risks. And a lot of that because he was in a position where he had to make sure that he could, feed the kids and keep that he wasn't able to take big risks. And, but was always supportive. He always let us take our paths, and we all took our own individual paths. And now, fast forward, he's kind of somewhat partially retired. As stressful as his life is probably right now.
Well, it's tax season.
It's tax season.
I feel it when I walk in the door here this time of year.
It's a little tense.
My hairs are still standing up on my neck. The fish is out there just trying to jump out.
He jumps a lot more than normal, that fish does. It's like he's trying to commit suicide. He's like, this shit is intense in here. I'm out. But no, years ago, he decided to go back to school. He went back to school and got a degree in business management with a focus in accounting. He started doing some tax returns on the side for me whenever he was off work and could fit it in. And then it kind of snowballed into like, okay, hey, listen, he took an H&R Block class. I sent him to that, and in addition to his degree. And so he learned the trade, and now he's doing tax returns and doing, dealing with clients directly. And he's come full circle, but he's gone from a job where he was working a lot of hours and a lot of manual labor and a lot of stress working for other people to
no freedom,
to basically just taking orders from me all day. But I wouldn't be here without my family. So it was unique. I mean, and like we said before, I didn't, my parents we never grew up. We didn't grow up with money. We grew up. I remember when we got caller ID, and I was like, "Did we hit the lottery? Like, how do we have this little box that tells us who's calling? Like, what is this?"
Yeah, it's so funny. Remember, that was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal, and I'm like, I don't know how we're affording this, but
yeah, Central Air was a big one growing up.
Yeah, we got that. And I was like, I don't know what's up.
Never had that in LV.
Yeah. My dad literally did hit the lottery. Like he hit like a back alley brown paper bag, $16,000 in a bag, and we got Central Air, floor to floor carpet in the living room, and he bought a station wagon. And I'm thinking, you couldn't do any. $16,000 is a carpet nowadays.
Yeah.
And now a brief word from our sponsor.
This episode of Between Two Bridges is sponsored by Paymark Payroll. Are you tired of spending countless hours juggling payroll calculations, tax filings, and compliance regulations? Well, say goodbye to that chore and let Paymark Payroll take the burden off your shoulders. With our secure online portal, you can access your business information from any internet location, even your phone. Employees will love the ability to receive direct deposits, and they can access all their pay stubs, tax forms, and information through their own portal. Focus on growing your business while we take care of the rest. With top-notch customer support, we're always here to assist you with anything, at any time. Don't let payroll stress hold you back. Choose Paymark Payroll and experience the freedom to thrive. Contact us at payyourpeople.com for a personalized consultation and a demonstration of our powerful payroll solutions, and see how Paymark Payroll can better your workflow. That's payyourpeople.com. Join the growing list of satisfied businesses that have embraced the convenience and efficiency of Paymark. Payday made easy. Your business deserves nothing less than the best, and that's exactly what Paymark Payroll delivers. Now back to the show.
We did skip over Bill.
Yeah.
And I guess we don't have to do them in chronicle order, but no. Bill was unique. And before we go off on a tangent, he works for Schneider Downs, right?
Yeah.
And I had brought up that I got involved with Real Men Wear Pink because of a guy from Schneider Downs, and it like totally blanked my mind of his name. But then when I left, of course, I was like, oh, Dan Garcia. So shout out to Dan Garcia from Schneider Downs. Good dude. And he did a lot of good for the breast cancer awareness here in Pittsburgh. His father, unfortunately, was diagnosed with breast cancer, which, yeah, you don't hear that a lot, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you sit in a room at the beginning of that, and people tell you, like, this is why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I'm, like, the rare bird in the room. I've never had anybody in my life go through breast cancer.
I have some aunts. But
Yeah, and I was like...
It's usually a female thing.
Yeah, so, like, they put you on the spot. They don't tell you you're giving this speech to a room of about 35, 40 people that are involved in it. And I'm like... I'm the lucky one in the room. Like, it was kind of like a weird situation. But when I started getting involved in it, then I realized, you know, it's not about just helping the people that have breast cancer. It's about preventing breast cancer. Mm-hmm. So, like, everybody in my life that's true and dear to me is a woman. So,
yeah.
And obviously men too. So,
yeah,
that's what I was just off on a tangent. But I wanted to get that out of the way before we started talking food because.
Yeah. So he was, I mean, we kind of grew through this, but cell phones started around the time we were born.
Right.
They were like this big, and then now they're this big, and then
the little curly antennas on the back of your car.
Flip phones and Nokia phones, but then you were able to access the internet, and then this term came out, I don't know, we'll say 15 years ago, social media influencer.
Yeah.
And
I think he accidentally started doing it.
Yeah,
like
wasn't like he said he
personal
he was
use,
just taking pictures of food that he liked, but now he gets comped meals and orders double steaks.
He's got like 12,000 followers on Instagram that are like me and my wife going through like, what do we want to have for dinner tonight? Where are we going to go? And it's like, I don't know. Let's check out Pittsburgh Food Dude, see where he thinks. Yeah. So last night we actually went to that Fish Nor Fowl.
Nice.
And had dinner, which he said is, I think he said was his favorite restaurant in the city right now. It was legit.
Yeah.
And I texted him before because I'm like, hey, Bill, we're going to Fish Nor Fowl. What should I wear? And what should I eat? And he gave us some tips, and the focaccia bread with the whipped ricotta was insane.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We had the chicken parm. My wife had a tortellini special. It was really, really good. Definitely highly recommended. Really, really good.
So now that we're on the topic of food, last night I was going to order from the Village Inn. Mm-hmm. And I went to Il Pizziola instead, so I upped it up a little bit.
The one on Hart's Run?
Yeah, and we just do takeout. It's easier with the kids. They're always packed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got to do something different here. So I was just going to order the gnocchi, and then I just switched the sauces around with another dish and was like, oh, Bill would be proud, man.
Yeah.
He would be real proud. So
yeah, I like going and trying a bunch of stuff, which we kind of did last night. We did, my wife got the one thing, I got the other thing. We kind of split it up and
I tried that too. My wife got a Parmesan crusted chicken salad. I'm like, great.
Yeah, thanks,
great.
Babe.
Thanks for really contributing. You couldn't have got like the lasagna because I really was in between the gnocchi and the lasagna.
Right.
So I think moving forward, me and Jerry are going to go on more dates.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm down with that. Like I went to Bonefish with my wife a couple weeks ago, and she's got a shellfish allergy. So go to a restaurant, go to a seafood restaurant with my wife that has a shellfish allergy. And she gets the one thing on the menu that doesn't have shellfish on it. And I'm like, I want to try that, but I can't eat these 4 things myself. So I'm just going to order this, and I'm going to come back with somebody that can eat with me.
I mean, I guess we could all have a business meal at a restaurant.
Yeah, we should.
We should just do it here on air. Nate would love it. He'd just have to cut microphones
to tie all this together.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't mean to exclude you on that. I was just looking at him. Yeah. You can come. That's 3 more entrees we can get.
His meals are basically tax deductible if he turns this into an enterprise, right? So you see, obviously he's not a hot woman, so you can't just rely on his looks, but to turn this into a business, or for us, if we're sitting down with a guest, we can go out to eat, and that's tax deductible, right?
It's like one of these weird professions, right, that have kind of surfaced in the recent years where people are writing off things like meals because they're going out to dinner just with their family, but he's posting them. He's advertising for them. He's advertising for himself.
Right.
He's profiting on it, not only with sometimes a free comped meal, but also with payment from Instagram and sponsorships and things like that. So he's receiving revenue based on those posts. So the costs of those posts become deductible. So it's kind of a weird situation. You see that like the girls that are on there posting their Instagram influencers,
OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Assets.
Yeah,
they're bare
off,
assets.
They're writing off outfits.
Yeah.
And manicures
Right.
and etc. This is a kid-friendly show sometimes. No, it's not
Sometimes,
really.
yeah.
It's not really. But some of those things where you'd think like you can't write off your manicures, but if you're a model and you're doing it because that post that you just put up made you $5,000 and your fingernails have to be done, that becomes a ordinary and necessary part of your business. And so there's a weird gray area, and I think that there's a lot of, I don't want to say strange, but new and evolving businesses that we're dealing with that the Internal Revenue has to also adapt to.
Right.
We've seen that with crypto where for the first several years, they're like, we don't even know what to do with this. Like, how is this taxable? Are we taxing it when it's sold? Are we taxing it when it grows? I mean, there's all this confusion on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, we've become one step ahead, and that's not good for the government. But
no, the government's trying to catch up.
We're a very innovative generation.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I was listening to recently was about you go on any website and it says accept the cookies. Like the data, like they don't have, the government has no way to control what data that they're taking from you
and what they do with it.
Right. And it's a free for all, and companies are making a lot of money on data that's been taken because like no one has the time to read all that bullshit.
No.
Yeah.
We would spend all our lives just doing that.
Right. But they could put anything in there, like they could own your phone in your house and you just click accept because you want to read the newspaper article.
It is listening. I know we talked about a made up lady the other day and it turned out to be real with
oh yeah. Well, yeah, I knew about the Kim Crawford wine.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought
that's what threw me for a loop.
Did it come up as an ad? Did you?
It came up.
I have never Googled that in my life.
And it was an ad on your Facebook?
Yes.
Yeah, that's so creepy.
Yeah.
The one time I was on a motorcycle trip with some guys, and I was sitting outside a hotel in the morning, and I was just bullshitting with one of my friends, and he's like, I'd like to get like a flagpole for my front yard, like a legit like big flagpole lit up,
like a Mayalaga.
Yeah, like a big flag. Yeah, not just like a flag off your house, but like a big flagpole. And I'm like, yeah, I'd like to have one of those too someday. I mean, it'd be kind of cool. Later that day, I'm on Facebook and I have an ad for flagpoles.
Right.
And I'm like, I have never one time searched flagpoles. I've never, ever even considered it until having that conversation. You cannot tell me my phone wasn't listening.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't sue us, Zuckerberg. We're not accusing
All right, well, let's run this by. Good stock advice.
Yeah.
Cheap insurance rates.
How about
tax evasion?
There's an app that you can it works with I guess Robinhood, I think. But it's an app that overlays with your Robinhood account that you can mimic automatically.
Pelosi. We talked about this on here. Yeah.
Pelosi's transactions. And my brother started doing it, my younger brother, and he's up like 14% in like 6 weeks.
Which is great.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I guess take pictures of your food.
Tie this to the, I guess, local business. So through advertising, right? You see people use social media for that. And let's just use Joe Contractor as an example. And he's advertising on Facebook. So you just get the random posts. Hey, look at the old stuff. And here's what I did new. They could actually write off their advertising stuff. I don't think a lot of people know that. So whether you're boosting posts or running ads on your local podcast.
Yeah. Is there an easy way to look at it, Jared? Like, is there a way to say, okay, if it improves my business, it helps my business run day to day, it's a write-off, right?
Yeah.
T-shirts.
You have to consider the phrase that the IRS always uses is this related to an ordinary and necessary is this an ordinary and necessary expense to operate my business? And if it is, then it is a valid business deduction. If it is not, it is not. I just had a conversation with an IRS auditor, which I won't disclose details of that too much, but a question had come up about a client's deduction for advertising, and it was a large deduction, and it was about and it was an advertising expense related to kind of an offshoot of a different line of business than he's used to. So the question became, well, is this an investment that he was basically paying some firm that was going to generate some sort of passive income? Or is he now part of that? Is he now trying to also add that service to his portfolio of services? Mm-hmm. Upon conversation with my client and the auditor, it turned out that he agreed that it was a necessary, ordinary business. He was branching out into that. It was the first year, the year that was in question, was the first year that he had done that. But it was the discussion was related to the intent. Or are you intending to start offering that service? How has it gone? Are you still doing it? And things like that. So you have to kind of consider that. There's a lot of things that people leave on the table.
Yeah.
That people don't think of. You go to the post office and buy stamps, and they don't think that, those stamps, they use them to send out invoices. Well, then that's a deduction.
Oh.
There's a lot of things that you just have to think like, is this part of my business? Is this a necessary expense for me to operate my business? If the answer to that is yes, then it is deductible. Now, there's some rules that they've eliminated. They used to be able to write off entertainment. So I'd have clients that would...
club memberships and stuff like that. Or
memberships, or they would take a client to a sporting event and write off those tickets. You can't do that anymore.
Which kind of impacted a lot of that. Like country clubs took a hit. Season tickets were down.
Yep.
People would have a box for a pirate game for their company.
Yeah.
And when they lose that write-off, they're like, well, we're not
going to do this.
Yeah,
anymore.
We don't need it anymore.
And then the Pirates are the Pirates.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You don't want to pay to watch that.
You should actually get tax breaks for going to the pirate game.
Does it bother anybody when you see like some major celebrity wearing a pirate hat and you're like, you're just wearing that to be ironic?
They're just wearing
trying
it
to look cool.
Well, it's Snoop Dogg, right?
He is a Pittsburgh fan. He's a Steelers fan. But,
well, that P became iconic in that realm of things. So
it would have been nice to see them win a World Series back in the day.
Yeah, totally off topic, but I kind of stumbled into this thing with aliases. I heard a story where Terry Bradshaw in the 80s, 70s would travel under an alias.
Yeah.
And his alias was Thomas Brady.
Right.
So I started looking up like these aliases people use, and Jay-Z's alias is Bryce Pilaf. And George Clooney goes with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I think like that's the Pirate P has just become like pop. It's always been popular, like NWO, and they would wear it on stage, and it's kind of back to the influencer thing. I think it's always been there. It's just now.
Yeah.
Now it's at the forefront.
I wish people wore it because they were good.
Right.
Like you
but
see,
they signed Mitch Keller.
Mitch the pitch.
See what my man Paul Skeens does.
Who could we get? Yeah, LSU guy over there. Who could we get from the Pirates organization to come in here and debunk the rumor that they're spending exactly what they need to spend to win?
Well, they are the second lowest team in terms of payroll, but they are one of the most profitable, right? In terms of percentages.
Yeah, that's because you could have a ping pong team in Pittsburgh and it's going to do well.
And the thing is, like we saw this. I don't remember what year it was when we went to the playoffs. Mm. Like Pittsburgh rallied, man.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there were sellout crowds. I mean, it was like all of a sudden the pride in Pittsburgh Pirates was back. Like this city would rally behind them again. And we have one of the nicest stadiums in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're
We
running
could
out of time.
fill the river with boats. Maybe we could
Yeah.
build a pirate ship, and that would be a write-off, perhaps.
Well, and then
Record this from the Allegheny River.
and you see it too because like they just hung Yager's jersey from the rafters.
Yeah.
Not that we're a sports podcast, but like the Penguins are struggling right now. And like over the last 17 years, they haven't struggled like they've been struggling the last two. So now it's convenient. Let's hang Yager's jersey in the rafters. Let's get the buzz back and sell the tickets. And
they sold out, man. That place was
bumping
banging that day.
And the stories that came out when he came back about how he saved the Penguins.
Right.
You know, so maybe it's not business related, but they needed to win that series to get those 2 extra games at home to keep the bottom line going. And he did it. So pulled groin and all.
Yeah.
Speaking of pulled groins, how about his comment about his girlfriend?
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
So, Jerry, how's your mental health? It's crunch
buddy.
time. You're, what, halfway through the season? I guess
no,
early
yeah.
on. It's
Yeah, it's
still
still
first
early.
few weeks.
Yeah, it's still early.
You got
Cold
this-
plunging helping?
No, I haven't. I gotta get it set back up. Whenever it was super cold,
Easy.
it's too hard to do. Which I know people are gonna listen and be like, it's a cold plunge. But the nice thing, whenever you go out in a cold plunge, obviously it's fully expected that your body is going to be freezing. But when the wind is blowing and your head is also freezing, it is
Mind numbing.
really hard. So I haven't really been using it, but now that the weather's breaking a little bit, we're supposed to have some warm weather coming up here. I'm gonna get that thing back going because I need something.
Yeah.
You
How
know
many
who
hours
had-
did you put in this week?
I did the math Tuesday
Don't do the
night.
math.
I
Don't
know.
ever do the math.
I had the beginning of the week was rough, man.
You made like $1 an hour this
and,
week.
Yeah, Tuesday night I had already been at like 44 hours by Tuesday night.
Oh, jeez.
So it's Sunday now, and I don't know. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
But even like last night we went out, and I'm sitting at a concert. I went to the Clark's concert last night.
And you're old as shit.
And I'm old. Yeah. They were awesome, but it reminded me how old I was.
Yeah.
But
we don't want to talk too bad about Blazy. I think we're trying to get him on.
Yeah, I
here.
messaged him.
Yeah,
We'll
we're-
see if he messages me back.
Maybe he's listening.
Yeah. I sent him the link. He might listen to this. He was awesome. But even then I'm sitting there listening and I'm thinking about the things that I need to get done. And I'm like, I gotta stop. You have to like remind yourself to live in the moment and like, listen, that shit'll be there tomorrow. Like I need to focus on what I'm doing right now. And it's hard this time of year. It's hard because it's nonstop. I get here. I try to take the kids to school in the morning, so I get here around 8:30, and it's nonstop. Even if I have breaks, it's still like just between the different companies and the phone calls and trying to return to emails and just all day long, nonstop. That by the end of the day, you're just so fried, and then you go home, and it never fails. You're like, oh, that one guy I didn't get back to. God damn it.
Yeah.
And you can't stop.
Yeah. That's me. Like I'll do everything at the cleaners. We'll do, 430 pieces Monday and I'll get like halfway home. And then so-and-so's going out of town. They need it.
Yeah.
They're flying. Everybody in the world flies out at 5:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You just sometimes can't get it all done, but it's part of it,
Yeah. It's part of it. You got to do what you got to do.
Do you experience like a social exhaustion from all the phone calls? Like at the end of the day, you just don't
100%.
want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I feel that way at people come in at the counter and I'm really good for the first like 6 hours of the day. Like it doesn't matter. I'll bullshit, whatever.
Yeah.
But then like
Toward the end, you're just done.
yeah,
Yes.
it's like
Funny. When how I don't know. Are you Catholic?
yeah,
I'm not super religious.
yeah. I was raised Catholic.
Yeah, I was
Let's
raised
put it that
Catholic.
way.
So when you got married, you had to go like those Catholic classes. Did you have to do that?
I'm not actually
Jerry's
married yet,
not
bro.
technically
I just
married.
wear a wedding ring.
Oh, right. That's right.
I mean, I've done.
He plays one on TV.
Yeah, just play
just
one on a
blasted you.
podcast. Everybody.
I just blasted you. You should have been like, yes.
Yeah.
I took those
Me and
classes.
Father Blau, we sat down.
Cut this part.
Yeah, cut this part out. It's funny because when Greg was talking about marriage and stuff, he was like, "You guys are married," and it's like, well, I'm technically married. It's the only people that don't see me as married is the IRS and Saint Ernest. Other than that, we're good.
So you have to take these classes to learn how to get married, I guess, and how to be married. And I don't know, it was kind of silly, but there was one thing, like they had another married couple come up, and I remember listening to them thinking like, man, how how did they swindle these people into doing this? But they were like talking to everybody about like how to be married and how to treat your spouse. And anyway, no, they talked about, there was something that they said that they do that like after a long day, they sometimes, one spouse is like, I don't have any more words. Like I'm done. Like, one
I don't have the energy for you today, Beth.
Yeah. But one spouse will be like, "What, are you upset? Are you mad at me? You're not talking to me?" And they'll be like, "Listen, I'm out of words for the day. Like I'm done. Like it's not you. I'm done talking. I don't want to talk anymore. I'm out of words." And there's days like that. This time of year particularly where I just want to go home and just be done with talking and thinking and just go to sleep or watch TV and watch something funny and mindless.
Or sit down on a Sunday at 11 and say a bunch of words
on
a podcast.
Well, it's early.
It's early yet.
It's early, so I still have words, but currently I go home and watch Schitt's Creek and laugh my ass off and don't have to think about anything.
I watched, I get into these episodes, like these shows like on Netflix, and I'm like a power watcher. Like I'll watch like 6-7 episodes a night. So I like always look forward to getting done with them, but I look forward to the moment of them. So I was watching Bloodline on Netflix. It's a pretty good show. 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Got it done in about a week.
Yeah, the worst is when it's over and you're like, well, now what?
Well, it motivates me then, because now I'm like, all right, now I can get back to all the paperwork I needed to do and shit, because like I took a break, so. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, we touched on all our guests, right?
Yeah.
Let's kind of just look into the glass ball here a little bit for the future coming up. We recorded 1 episode that'll come out in March. We got 2 that'll come out in March. We got our 3rd one scheduled for next week, week. And I guess we need advertisers, right? We're gonna push that envelope.
We're gonna push some advertising and try to come up with maybe some advertising, some sort of structure, some, I don't know, levels of advertising.
We talked earlier about maybe getting potentially like I don't even know how you would call it, web guests that could
maybe do some remote.
So if you listen to us from afar, that's coming in the future.
Yep. Reach out
to us. We have friends that are all over the world at this point. One friend specifically we don't want as a guest, Dimitri Fikaris. No, I'm kidding. I'm fucking with you, buddy. But I know he listens. If it has Oakmont name on it or someone from Riverview does it, the dude listens. So I guess that's my around way to shout him out a little bit.
Yeah.
Get his engine rolling. Yeah. He'll have the Pope on our show. Like, that's just how that dude operates. I'm like, I know a guy, he's like really big in the Catholic community. He can help you out with those marriage classes, Joey, and
get you set.
We just look outside and Jerry's Corvette's sitting out there and the Pope mobile's behind it.
Yeah.
We didn't touch that either. I guess that came up and
that was a February purchase, Jerry.
Yeah, the Corvette finally showed up.
Yeah.
14 months and a day after the deposit went down. And it's spectacular. I got really lucky. And
company vehicle, right?
Yeah.
And Vinny loves it.
Yeah, it's not a write-off. It is not going to be a write-off.
No.
Under discretionary spending.
Yeah, it is definitely discretionary spending.
It's not necessary.
Yeah, it is not necessary and ordinary for an accounting firm to have. But
if you did own an energy drink company, you probably could.
Yeah, just sticker it up. Yeah, for sure.
Wrap it.
Yeah, so I'd like to. My wife and I always talk about setting up some sort of like automotive T-shirt website or something like that I could use to,
offset
to use
the
car to offer, because a lot of times cars like that bring a following on social media.
Yeah.
And if you're posting stuff like that and then also advertising a brand, you could develop some sales, and then, silly expenses like
we could work it into the podcast
deductible.
We could work it into the podcast logo, right? The car.
Corvette? Sure.
When are we doing our first Cannonball Run?
As soon as it warms up enough. I got lucky, man. They the like 2 weeks that I got the car, like the day I got it, it was still kind of cold. Like I was fighting. You're not supposed to drive it when it's under 40 degrees because the tires are summer tires. And it was like 39, 40, 41. So I had to like take it real easy. But then like the 2 weeks after that, it was like 50s, a little bit of 60s. So I got to drive it as much as I could. It's tax season. So, but then it got cold and snowed again. So it's back in the garage, but looks like next week's supposed to be nice. So it might come back out.
Yeah.
I took my daughter to a father-daughter dance.
I saw that. That's cool.
And I had to pick her up in the Corvette.
Oh,
she was at her friend's house whenever getting ready for the dance. And I'm like, I got to pick up my date in a Corvette.
Right.
That's right.
So she was pretty pumped.
So we got a lot going on. There's been a lot to this point. I don't know. We didn't number the episode. This one here.
Yeah, I don't know what this is going to be.
17,
something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're moving and grooving. We're definitely looking for more guests.
Yeah.
Trying to expand out. To it's a Pittsburgh-based podcast, but we're trying to expand out to people that we've hit our network, and there's certainly more in our network to hit.
It continues with the goal of mine for doing it was kind of just to learn. Like in learning, you got to go outside of your horizons,
Yeah.
So I'd like to see some different businesses, see how they operate.
Yep.
I know that it's made me a better business owner a little bit. Just hearing these stories, it's made me probably a better dad a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Although I've had a rough patch lately. My kids won't leave each other alone. I feel like they're going for the world heavyweight belt every day, and they're just fighting and jumping on the furniture. And it's hard because my son's 4, so he's getting yelled at for shit that my daughter never got yelled at for.
Mm-hmm.
Because like she's raising the standard,
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, guys. But
Kids are tough.
Yeah, we're going through it right now. I'm trying to like back off, and February is a slow month of the dry cleaners. When the revenue numbers go down, the stress picks up no matter what business you're in. And I can relate to some of these stories these people tell, and it's like, it's all right. You're all right. It's okay.
Sometimes you just got to be all right.
Yeah. I mean, hey, the bank account's not at zero.
Right.
It started at zero.
We're going to live to tell another story. And but anyway, as far as getting a guest, like we're learning a lot, but I'm hoping that we can get to a point where, we're helping promote these guest businesses.
Right.
And bringing sales to them. And I hope that people are looking at it as that opportunity. Our downloads are up. I'm seeing big trend in views going up and up. I'm getting a lot of feedback from people in my network that they're watching it and they're enjoying it. And
we just had somebody, a guy I know that owns the dry cleaners in Orlando. He reached out to me. He was like, killing it in the show. Love it. So
that's awesome.
Was cool.
Yeah. So it's the viewership is expanding. So I think that we're bringing to the table, it's not just for us, we're learning and it's something for us here, but I'm hoping that we're able to provide value to not only the guests, the viewers, but to the guests that sit with us.
Right. Absolutely. Well said. Well said. So we covered all our X's and O's this week. So why don't you end it with us, our destiny here today? Go ahead and wrap it up for us.
Yeah. So it's February, right? We got a leap day coming up.
Bonus day.
4 years. I remember we had to turn in Miss Schmidt's 5-page. What was it? Paper.
I didn't do homework, bro. I never did homework.
I just always think of that for leap day. It was due then, but I'm still trying to get established here, so it's been good to hear from all these people. I think I pick up something every time. I'm about to get into a bunch of lending situations that'll keep me up at night, but
yeah,
been good.
All right, guys. Well, that's it.
So we have some good episodes coming. I think it's good. So keep watching.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Good, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. Find and follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform. Like and subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. You can join us socially on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Yes, we still call it Twitter. You can email the show at info@betweentwobridgespodcast.com. Until next time, make it till you rake it.